Isn't it
Oh.
safe for him to get the email now?
Stop the recording.
Oh, I never got my email set up.
Who had to do?
And are we unmuted?
We are.
Yes. All right, then it's 5:30. We're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. Amira, you wanna do roll calls?
Absolutely. All right, Doug Mendenhall. Here, Michaela is here, Kathy is here, Greg is here, Lisa Lanza. I don't think I added her. Okay. Todd Vaughn,
Here?
all right, John, are you here?
I see him,
We can see you, but we cannot hear you.
Thought I heard it.
because he's muted.
John, if you wanna unmute yourself, if you can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yes,
We can hear you.
perfect.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful.
Isn't that Lisa who just came?
Yep,
Yes.
Yay.
there she is. Give her a second.
From the audience.
Oh, George.
Okay. Oh, she's still connecting. There she is. Lisa, can you hear us? We're doing roll call. If you came, perfect timing.
Yep, I can hear you.
Perfect, okay. All right. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Craig, you want to lead us? If the people online can just go on mute.
Ready?
I pledge allegiance
You do. You-
United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, consent agenda. Get through our minutes first. Are there any corrections to the minutes from our last meeting? Let me know online if you guys have any corrections to the minutes. All right. If there are no corrections, I will entertain a motion to accept the minute.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Right. Fred, you second there, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, preventative maintenance report. Who is presenting?
I can just go over it really quickly. We had in February, we had 12 vehicles that were scheduled for maintenance and 12 that were completed, so we're at 100%.
Wow.
They've been
Yeah.
doing a great job at keeping them.
We definitely have, what is our, what is the overall cost for that? Are we, I mean, I'm assuming we're staying within budget and all of that.
We've had a couple of big repairs in the last couple of months,
Mhm.
like $5, $6, $7,000
Yeah.
ones, but most of them are,
Just minimal,
just our minimal. I mean, it's still a lot.
yeah,
We have a lot of vehicles and then our older vehicles,
yeah,
our old buses, they're
Yeah.
old and tired.
yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly. Okay, any questions on the preventative maintenance report, you guys? No? Okay. We don't need to accept that one, so we can just go ahead and move on. Is Jennifer online?
She is.
Oh, Andre jumped on. Did you want to say anything about the preventative
There he
maintenance
is.
report?
Yeah,
Andre?
I'd like to just kind of update the board that we're hopefully by Monday or Tuesday of next week, we have a new bus arriving on fleet. And right now we have 2 vehicles, one in Seattle and one in Lithia Ford getting a new crankshaft, and the other one's getting a new roof put on. So it's kind of got us in a little bit of a shortage of vehicles, but we're making do.
And those are the 2 new buses, right? So are those
Correct, yes,
warranty?
yeah.
Yes, okay. Those are
Okay.
warranty.
Okay.
issues.
Crankshaft on a warranty bus?
Yeah.
That's a bad deal.
Oh, well, the other one, the roof is coming off, so, yeah,
Who's,
it had to go to Seattle.
who's making it?
Andre, you
Endura
know,
Company. And
Endura.
Endura is the one that are making the buses, but if you guys know anything about the RV world, Forest River Products are the actual ones that make the buses.
Cassie's.
Mhm. Well, it's nice that we don't have to pay for it. It's also
Right.
unfortunate that we can't use them.
Yeah.
because they're not-
Ironic, Endura, and they're not enduring.
They're not. This is
Yeah.
it's just kind of par for the course when we get new vehicles. A lot of times you spend the first 6 months or a year working out the bugs. And especially vehicles that were made during the COVID period.
Mhm.
Oh,
So these were all made
Okay.
during COVID.
hence the discount.
Back then.
Well, there was no discount.
Yeah, I was gonna
There was
say,
no
I
discount.
think
Well,
it cost
They
more.
actually costed more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey.
they actually
They
costed
were
more.
all assembled by individuals at home.
Yeah, yeah. Online.
In the garage.
Online.
Oh, does anybody have any questions for Andre?
Good job, Andre.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you.
Andre.
I appreciate
We
it.
appreciate you. All right, okay, was Jennifer online? You said
She
yes,
is,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
I don't hear, but, Jennifer, do you have an update for us?
Sure. I can actually address the vehicle thing. I'm at a compliance review over in Coos Bay today, and Coos Bay has 2 vehicles that are very similar to what you guys have. However, the company that they were trying to get the warranty repair done through said that they had missed a couple of steps. And these were steps that you wouldn't typically have to take. There are about 3 vehicles in Klamath and about 3 vehicles in other locations. So this is not unusual right now for the vehicles to be having a lot of problems. And we're calling them COVID vehicles. They are bad. The condition of them is very poor. They cost a lot of money, and it's really sad. And I am going to be reaching out to our capital coordinator and my managers to see if there's anything that ODOT can do about it, because you guys are fortunate. Yours are still under warranty, but quite a few of these, they just passed the warranty. And they're still brand new vehicles, 2024s, 2023. So ridiculous. So
Amazing.
with that said, we do have some trainings coming up. We have a NEPA training in April. Don't have the exact date yet for that. I think it's around the 9th, possibly. We also have a training in May that is coming up for procurement, and that would be something that Andre, George, and Sherry would want to make sure that they attend. And that is going to be on, I believe it's the 14th, if it's Wednesday, May 14th. And then we're going to be having a financial management training in July, along with a drug and alcohol training as well.
Both of those are in July.
We did have the continuing resolution that passed through drug and alcohol and the financial. Yes, drug and alcohol is right at the very end of July, so the last couple days of July. And the financial management, I believe, is it's either the 10th or the 14th, and I'll get those dates for you all. But I highly recommend taking those.
Are any of those available for board members, Jennifer?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
available for whoever wants to take them.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Are they, can you attend remotely?
The only one that is not going to be remote is the drug and alcohol. So all the other ones will be remote. So,
Perfect.
yeah, working on getting agreements going. The STIF plans are going to be going to the OTC for approval in May. And then those funds will be executed by July 1. And then funding will come, of course, every quarter on that. Let's see what else is going on. I think that's about it from ODOT. And you guys were flooding like crazy when I was driving through there, and I had to reroute twice to try to get over here to Coos Bay. I had to drive all the way to Eugene in order to get to Coos Bay.
Oh, my goodness.
I hope you're all
Flooded.
safe.
Yeah, it was dangerous.
It was dangerous.
That's
We're
crazy.
doing pretty good though today. The waters are receding
better.
and the community's
good.
getting back to normal.
Yep,
Excellent.
and we're glad you're
Thank
safe
you.
too, Jennifer.
Me too.
We're out and about to look at the flooded areas where the police said you're impeding emergency response and stay
Yeah.
home. And everybody does the opposite. They get in their vehicles and drive around.
Yeah.
I know, I'm parked.
Yeah.
That happens during fires too, where the fire personnel can't get to where they need to be because you have all these looky-loos.
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody got that. Set out saying, stay home
yeah,
unless it's unsafe to do so. No,
yeah,
nobody listened.
I know.
And for picnic.
Maybe we can talk about
Go
this
rafting.
during not on agenda, but I'm interested in whether or not we have like a contingency plan with the city where we step in and help.
An
during-
emergency plan. Jennifer and I were just talking about that last week,
Yeah.
so we will have to find out like the proper steps we have to go through because
Mhm.
we have to.
To be
go
able,
through-
yeah, to use the
Yeah.
vehicles for that purpose, but
I
yeah.
don't think it would have helped in this.
And then we have to
situation.
make
Not in this,
sure,
but it just made me think of it. I was like,
need to-
there are a lot of people that were, that had to leave their homes and they opened up a couple of the schools to do emergency shelters. So it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
you have to go through it in a certain way so that we can, because if we do, then we can get FEMA funding
Yeah.
that can help pay for
we
certain
should
things,
look
so.
into that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, FEMA has programs. You can go
Mhm.
get the funding and this becomes a shelter. And there's funding for that. And then, of course, yeah.
There's a proper process, so
Yeah.
we need to find out what that is and,
Yeah.
I am going to, you know. work
Yeah,
with
that would be
Jennifer on that.
great if we could. do
Just
that,
see
and that's more
pictures. I'm
support
not
for
sure our buses could have gotten out on Diamond Lake Boulevard.
Probably not,
Yeah, I don't know.
but it could be a different situation next time.
Yeah,
And it's just
earthquake,
being able to
natural,
have that.
human disaster.
Yeah.
Well, we might be able to piggyback with the tribe, because they do that all the time there for truck and travel and try
Yeah.
to filter everything out, so we
Yeah.
could work something with them. They work on that quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay, you're up, financial report.
Okay, has everybody had a good, chance to look at the financial report?
Yes.
At the end of February, we had 413,488.93 left. The P and L quarter and the P and L fiscal year, they don't give a good snapshot of what's going on. Because it doesn't account for the money that we already had cash on hand. So the balance sheet and the P and L, the P and L that goes from 2018 to the current, those are the two that really show where we're really at. So we had 413,488.93. We received all of our state and federal funding, reimbursements by the end of February. So I got the reimbursements in right away and we got our funding right away on the federal side of it. You were asking specifically, Michaela, about preventative maintenance. If you go back to the variance report, the very last page of it, the materials and services, you can see month to date where we were over by 11,000, and that's gonna account for some of those big ticket items. A lot of that is gonna be in the repairs, the three major repairs. But as you can see, overall, year to date, we're under budget by 8,400.
That's good.
Under operations, and paratransit and demand are also under budget. So even if we've gone over a little bit, possibly here or there, we're still saving in other areas, so we're still under budget.
Where does it show that?
So if you go to the materials and services on the last page, and then this is our month to dates, and this is our year to date. And it has a dollar amount over budget on each for month to date and year to date.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So if you see, under the 22 operations, under the year to date,
Mhm.
we have spent 393,643. We budgeted 402,000, so we have a savings of 8,400.
Okay.
So we're still doing okay despite some of those major repairs. But we seem to have them every year, so we kind of budget that way.
Good idea.
To account for some of them. If anybody have any other questions? And as of today, we still have, I think like 313,000 in the bank, so that'll get us, we have one more payroll for March, and that'll end this quarter. And then we'll be getting our reimbursements and our stiff funds, so.
Yes.
Yeah, we're squeaking by, but we're doing it, and we're back on a quarterly reimbursement instead of a monthly, so.
Which is better. I mean,
It's,
it's nice to have the money right away, but
it is, but it's a lot more work for myself and for
Yeah.
Jennifer, so, it's nice just to be back on the schedule with everybody
Yeah.
else.
and it shows that we have a little more financial health. If we
Yes.
can make it for a quarter.
Yeah.
Instead
Yes.
Were we on a month as part of a punitive?
No,
No.
it was to try to help us because otherwise we could have maybe shut down
I
for a
see.
period of time.
Alright,
So when we had our financial review in March last
Mhm.
year, 1 year ago, my
Mhm.
goodness, it's already been a
I
year.
know.
They recommended that we do a monthly, report and reimbursements to get our money in quicker because our cash on hand was like
Very
nothing, yeah. So we've since gone back to quarterly reimbursements, so we're doing okay.
We're moving in the right direction.
We are moving in the right direction.
Okay, so more financial stuff, the audit.
So the financial audit, this one, this was something that I guess when the auditor did our audit, they neglected to send this little report. And so she apologized and just said, we were supposed to send this to you for your board. When we sent you the audit. So you guys already saw the audit. It was the one that we finished December 31st.
Right,
So this was just a letter that was to the board specifically. So it's just there for your review and information.
mhm.
I think that on the financial report though, do we have to accept the financial report? Do we have to vote on that?
I
No,
don't think so.
No? Okay.
so,
Oh, we do, sorry. Yes, we do. Okay, let's go back to that really quickly. I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial report.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report as presented.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright,
And then we have a 6.3 is the corrective action plan for FY 22-23. So, I was able, I didn't know that we had to submit this to the state. And the state, sent a letter to Michaela saying that we did not submit our corrective action plan for our fiscal year 22-23. So I was able to go in and Cheryl had it finished, but I don't know why
it just never went.
it just
done.
never went, so, I just went through it just to make sure that it looked like it was all good and got it submitted. So the letter to Michaela is here, then the corrective action plan that was submitted to the state. And then the letter on the back is, we've just received from the state saying that we're complete.
It's done.
It's done, yes.
Okay,
So this was a compliance issue.
It wasn't it was compliance with the state, yes, with our, annual audit filing.
Yeah. Was it
So-
one of them that was on the original list or?
No, this was something completely separate, but now that I know that we have to do this, I went ahead and did the one for 23-24 that we just
Perfect.
finished in December, so,
Okay. So that will be done.
yes. So that is,
So
the
that's
6.4.
agenda item 6.4.
Yes, so 6.3 is the 22-23 that was requested by the state that we get it completed.
Okay,
The 6.4 is the 23-24, the audit we just finished in December,
okay,
and that, also been sent.
okay, and then,
And it's information only, there's no action, required.
okay, and then we don't Do we have any action items that we need to be watching on a continual basis?
So the current, audit that we just finished for the ending fiscal year ending 24.
Yeah.
We did have a couple of repeat findings and a couple of new findings.
Okay,
The repeat findings, had to do with the spreadsheet that the GM was using
Mhm.
to do quarterly reports when
Right.
they were trying to get her away from doing that and continued to do that. So, that spreadsheet's gone, like, I don't use that at all. And then the other two new ones, one of them was, they were both really about procurement, about the procurement of the charging stations
Yeah.
not being done properly. And
so what's the action plan for that?
to
That we have
develop
a
a procurement policy and
So we-
follow it.
Okay,
Yes.
so we've already done that.
Yes.
And,
If you guys look on, the 23-24, each one has a, corrective action plan.
mhm,
And most of them just say that, you know, we're gonna implement or revise policies. The district, will work with ODOT to ensure compliance. So
okay,
these are just things that the board would probably, you just need to be aware of it so that, you
Do
can
we
hold us
wanna put
accountable
this-
if we're not doing it.
do we wanna put this as a follow-up agenda item to check status for these action items, or are we now in compliance?
We should be in compliance.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
don't need to follow up on it,
Mm-mm.
okay,
Nope, I've done away with that spreadsheet. We've got the procurement policy in place. And the other two, I think were on the late reportings when we missed out getting reimbursements because of the late.
yes.
So, and have vowed not to do that. We will be early.
Yeah, that was a very big financial impact for the district,
It
and
was.
we're still reeling from that a little bit, so. Very important, I appreciate you always being so timely. Do we have public comment? No? Okay, is there anybody
David?
online?
Not this month.
I don't know if we have anybody online. Public comment.
Oh, God.
No.
Oh,
No
God.
public comment. Okay,
People.
okay, let's go ahead and move to 8.1, our compliance update. So.
The Title VI, LEP and ADA policy was,
We were just separating them.
yes, so it was an item last year.
Yeah.
Or last
Last
month,
month.
sorry. And there were just a couple of things, some, language that we wanted to change.
Yep.
And then some language we wanted to remove.
Yes,
And I have highlighted the areas that were changed and struck out anything that we're removing.
okay,
This is stuff we did last meeting, is that right?
We tabled it,
kind of, yeah, we,
made some recommendations and then.
so the problem is that the Title VI and the ADA needed to be separate, correct? And then also for Title VI, we had additional demographics included, but they aren't technically protected under Title VI.
Yes.
It's totally separate, so it's not a matter of, we don't want to protect those things. It's that it doesn't have anything to do with Title VI. So those had to be removed, and that's actually a finding that we had previously
In August.
in August. And then we were kind of putting the stuff back in, and we're like, wait, we can't do that, we need to take it back out, so.
Yeah.
And we put signage on the buses.
Yes.
Did it signage?
Yep.
We already did all. of
Yeah,
that.
we had the notice,
Very
the
much.
notice was done right. We fixed the notice, but then we ended up having the.
Then
words in
putting
the
it back
policy.
in here,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And last time I rode a bus, I looked for it. I didn't find one on the bus I was on.
There should be it should be just a notice, like a one-page notice.
I saw a lot of notices.
When did you ride? Do you remember?
3 weeks ago, I think.
I can ask Andre to go through, have the drivers go,
Yeah.
you know, somebody go
We
through
go
and
on a
make
field
sure
trip
that
out and go.
we
look at it.
can. I know that they were all done because I had them sign them off, but
Yeah.
if it's been ripped down, we might need to replace or sign, so. I'll have him double check and make sure the signage is still up there, but we did laminate them and put them up, so.
That was actually, I think, in the 30-day stuff that we checked
Mhm.
off.
Yeah.
Well, it's done a while ago. Okay. Any changes, any more changes to this policy, or are we ready to adopt it?
I'm just curious, I just forgot, I don't think we talked about it last time, but in regard to our percentage of the population being, Spanish speaking,
Yeah,
are we over the threshold on
No,
that?
we're
Okay,
not.
what was it, 3%?
I think it's
I
five.
can't remember. off the
Yeah,
top of
Well,
my
we're
head,
under the
but we are
threshold.
under-
we are under the threshold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jennifer, I'm sure could give us the exact percentage, but we are under the threshold
Yeah.
for all of the languages, so we don't technically have to have it provided, but we should know how to get it for them if they request it.
Mhm.
Cause they can
Yes,
request
They
it.
can request it, but
and
we
have
are
to
not.
provide.
Hello?
Hello, Sherry.
Yeah,
I have my extra board, David. He checks once every 2 weeks for signage in vehicles and at bus shelters for any missing bus schedules, Title VI letters, anything like that that needs to be in each shelter.
okay. Yeah, David's here, so. David is here.
Okay, any other questions on this
On the Title
policy?
VI.
I will entertain a motion to accept the changes.
Seconded,
Doug made a motion, Todd seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. It passes. Moving right along, you guys. Great job. Hot dogs. Okay, old business. Drug and alcohol policy.
Oh, wait, we have 8.2, the
Oh,
procurement
sorry.
policy.
I skipped. Thank you. Keeping me on track.
Sorry,
8.2 procurement policy. Okay.
I believe George is gonna speak to this.
Perfect. George is online.
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, tell us about the procurement policy. There's lots of yellow in here.
There's lots of yellow in here, but we are, after going back and forth with the help of ODOT and also with our RMLS, we have been able to come up with a procurement policy that is now been green lighted. And so there are a lot of changes in here.
Okay.
But it all reflects the policies that we have to follow within state statute and also with federal statute. And so I'm pretty confident in the policy now, and so is ODOT. And I just want to say thank you to Jennifer for all the help. We've gone back and forth on this for months at a time now, and we feel that this is now ready for the board to approve.
Okay.
everything yellowed out is being changed or gotten rid of, discarded.
Just being, everything in yellow has changed.
Everything in yellow is what's been added to the procurement policy.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, are you looking for the procurement policy?
Yeah.
It's that one.
This one here? Oh, okay. Just don't have the 8.
Does anybody have any questions? Any comments? So, I do have a question. So when we had adopted the previous procurement policy, and granted, we've gone through this multiple times, but we had sort of a, uh, process outlined, I guess, for the procurement policy to be implemented. This is a very large document. So, is there an easy way for people making purchases within the district to know whether or not they're following this procurement policy? You guys have a process in place? Well, a flow chart or a, like, fill out this form at this time, like, sort of thing. Like, do you have a way to actually be able to implement this to make sure that everything that's in this policy is followed?
Right, so at the
George?
towards the very end of the document, it provides a little bit of a cheat sheet. In
Okay.
order to follow which procurement policy.
Okay,
Really, Andre, who's gonna be our procurement person, has to go through training. He has to be able to understand. I've already gone through the state training for procurement, and so as we're going through the procurement process, especially on these next few ones that we have about 4 that are ready in the pipeline. We've been working closely with ODOT to ensure that we're following our own proper procedures as we've been writing them and also creating these documents. So it's
Okay.
really gonna fall on continuing education and keeping up with policy changes. I will say that in procurement, policy changes happen all the time. So today, this document is good. It can be outdated by next week, to be quite honest with you. It just depends on federal and state revisions that are consistently happening.
$500 toilets.
George, you're talking about this last page, that's a cheat sheet?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I would like to say, I did go through a recent procurement. And they made it very challenging, so I think we're right in line with compliance. And they know what they're doing. I just wanted to make that noted on the record.
Who was that?
I just went through a procurement and then sent it off to George and Andre, and then they just beat me up to smithereens. And so I just want to say that the process is up and running and working. Government efficiency.
As long as somebody's getting beat up. then
Yeah,
it's all
believe
right.
me, I was like, this is so frustrating. So that's how we know, I think we're compliant.
The degree of
Good to know.
frustration.
And they're holding it down, they're doing it right, so.
So
So,
one
okay.
thing I'll say to the board is that with procurement, procurement it's a big part of government. And because it's always evolving and changing, regardless of who's sitting in these seats, whether it's me, Andre, Ben, whatever the case may be, we do have to maintain and have a consistent, communication and dialogue with the people that are consistently overseeing this, like with ODOT. So I just want to give a big shout out to Jennifer because she has been just such a breath of fresh air in building this procurement, and her helping us through this process of being able to uncover things. And even when we thought we had it right, we both had to go back sometimes to make sure that, hey, what has changed even within the last week? And so regardless of, like I said, of who sits in here, we have to consistently be reaching out to our partners when we're going through procurements, just to make sure that we have the most updated information. So that way we ensure that next time we go through any sort of audit, that we're passing with flying colors.
Who lets you know on that? The changes?
Who lets us know?
Yeah.
It's our responsibility to ensure that we're keeping up with federal and state mandates. And usually the state is somewhat good about some of those changes. Some of the changes that come from federal, sometimes we're learning about it as we're hearing from it in the media. So it's just a fast moving thing. And right now with, especially on the federal level, there's going to be a lot of changes that we're just going to need to keep our eyes and ears open to and make changes as they come.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you being knowledgeable about that, George. I do see that a lot of the language has been maintained in here. I think the spirit of the board going through this procurement policy previously was to eliminate red tape when we could. Not to eliminate our partnership with ODOT, but for instance, where there were places in here that said that we must do things that actually required to do for the law, that we were cutting through that so that we would not unnecessarily be in violation of our own procurement policy. In instances where maybe we didn't run those things, but I see that you've kept some of that language in there of the, may submit to ODOT, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you for partnering with ODOT to get this done.
Perfect. Are there any other questions that I can answer for the board?
Yeah, what if accidentally we got out of compliance with our own policies because they're changing so fast? What is the next step? Are we simply told, hey, you procured something out of compliance and here's what you need to do to resolve that? Is that how it works?
Well, it kind of depends sometimes. So I've been through many of these, and it sort of depends when the date of change happened. So we may have ran a procurement, let's say, for example, today, and tomorrow the policy changes. We already had started down that road and we may not have known. It'll still may show up as a recommendation for future changes, but it's not necessarily like we were out of policy. We were within policy of the day that we actually enacted the policy. And then sometimes when hey, maybe something already changed and we had created it, let's say the day after, and we may not have known. Again, I think it comes to whether it's the spirit of the law or the letter of the law. And when we think about when an investigator comes and looks at our procedures, if we can say, hey, we were out of procedure, but we actually followed our own procedure, right? That sometimes it looks good on us because at least we followed our procedure. And the clear explanation was that we just didn't have the most updated policy changes that we needed in our procurement policy. So it all kind of depends. I think that when we show goodwill and we're consistently trying to evolve, that's a good sign. Because again, this is sort of a moving target at times when it comes to procurement. And really what people want to be able to see is that, are we being true to taxpayer dollars, and are we going through the right process in order to make sure that it's fair across the board for people to be able to gain those contracts through government?
And are these people that do the investigations, how many times, first question, how many times a year does this happen? And second question is, what if they find something in between? Are they monitoring constantly, or are they just doing it so many times a year?
So to answer that question better for you, I would resort to Jennifer, because if it was me in my previous government position, that'd be probably a very different response than what ODOT's policies are. So if
We
Jennifer.
normally have one audit.
One audit
We've
a year.
had two this year.
Well, we usually, they have like every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
Yeah,
Well,
so
and
the
even
one that.
ODOT goes through the.
Right, and the
audit
one
every
that
3
we
years.
had scheduled in August for this year, or for 2024, was actually the 3-year.
Mhm.
But we had a financial one that they did like in an emergency basis in March prior to that, so.
And then they just came back 2 weeks ago.
That was drug and alcohol.
Drug and alcohol.
Yep, that was drug and alcohol, that was a completely different.
So other than that, we're expected to self-correct on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
And through
Thank
through once a year, myself and Jennifer have had recent conversations in regards to me being able to do some spot checking on a yearly basis on our procurement process. So that way we can make sure that we stay ahead of making any corrections that are necessary.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think the key, this is Jennifer, I think the key is making sure that you're following your policy, because that was one of the big findings that you guys got during the compliance review last year in August, was that staff wasn't following the procurement policy that you had written when you were doing a procurement. So George is really familiar with it. He's going to be polishing it, as he needs to. But as long as staff is following that procurement policy that you have in place, meeting those federal and state thresholds, because they do change. George is spot on when he says that they change things randomly. Typically what happens is for FTA changes, they will send us out what they call Dear Colleague letters. And it says, hey, this is changing. You need to make modifications to your policy. So it is a good idea to do it on an annual basis. And then the other thing is that when you get a new contract with somebody, if you go through a procurement process and get a new contract, I'm comparing that contract with those payments that I'm reimbursing you for. So that's how I look at it. In addition to those compliance reviews that happen with RLS. So, but your staff
That
is
makes a lot
doing
of
a great
sense.
job.
He's picking up on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. And then do we have training planned for anyone who's involved in purchasing to
Yes.
go over the changes that we've put in place?
Yes, we're on a wait list right now.
And I
so-
think Andre's scheduled to take a couple, like 3 classes on the FTA
Mhm.
website that are
Mhm.
just,
Well, I mean internally, I mean for our procurement policy, do we have the people who know this? So I'm assuming probably George and Andre are probably gonna be the experts. Or is there gonna be training internally that's done so the rest of UPTD understands what's in here?
I think that, oh, go ahead, George.
Yeah, so with procurement right now, when procurement needs to happen, the request will be sent straight to Andre. And then
Mhm.
Andre and myself will work on it. So there's no one really else that's touching the procurement process except for
Okay.
Andre and myself.
Okay,
Easy, perfect.
Yep.
no one else is making purchases.
No, you send, that's what I was just kind of describing was I sent my request over to George and Andre
And they said no.
and I got beat up.
You ain't making no procurements.
No, but even to just to, the reason I'm telling you guys is because it's a working system.
Mhm.
I got it over to them, we went back and forth, we had to do a bunch of different things and, they really did lock it up in terms of making sure that it was done correctly. And so it's a working system, it's tried and true already.
So George, we need new chairs in this room.
I told him it was gonna be $700 a chair by the time we're done.
Procurement guy.
Either
They're
that or we
lucky.
need to up our insurance for the liability of sitting in
The
these
chair's
chairs.
gone.
Exactly.
Very
Okay.
well done, though,
Yes, thank you so
everybody,
much.
George
Yeah.
and Andre and Sherry,
Jennifer. Thank you.
get that done, and Jennifer, thank you very much.
All right. I will entertain a motion if you guys are ready. Motion to approve this policy.
I'll make a motion to approve the new procurement policy.
All right.
Second.
All right. Todd made a motion, Kathy seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. All right, now we can go to 9.1.
Yeah.
Okay, drug and alcohol policy changes.
Yes, so I take full responsibility for this. Last month I had you guys sign off on a policy that I thought was okay. I had gotten it from another agency and we did some little bit of wordsmithing and then I sent it over to Don at RLS. He was like, no. But some things had changed, so he was able to send me a full template for we are considered a zero tolerance district. There's zero tolerance and there's second chance, but we've always been zero tolerance, so he was able to send me over a full template. And then this drug and alcohol policy is only specific to our safety sensitive employees only.
Perfect.
So
Which is what we wanted
Yes.
to accomplish last time.
So I highlighted anything that was added and I highlighted and struck out anything that we removed. So you will be able to see that going through the policy.
Okay. I took a look through this, it all looks good to me.
Anybody have any questions on the drug and alcohol? And I did send it over to Sean at RLS once I had the clean copy and he has already given his blessing, so.
And then just to explain to them too, that we do have to list the people in the back.
Oh, on the back, let's see, where is it? It is almost all the way to the back. He did say that they did have to list my actual name as the DAPM. So that's on here on the second to the last page, page 28. And then we did have to, put the job duties back in here. We had taken it out on the previous one, but he recommended we put it back in. We don't have to list specific people under those, but
Mhm.
as the DAPM,
Yep,
we add my name to it.
perfect. All right, any questions or requested changes or anything? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve the modifications to the drug and alcohol policy.
So moved.
Doug made a motion,
Second.
Greg seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Neat.
Well done, Sherry.
We are gonna be officially compliant. All of our policies are approved by the
That's
board.
crazy. We don't get public comment in meetings anymore.
I know.
This job gets so boring.
Try to keep there.
Don't get too crazy, tell you.
Okay, 9.2 budget committee bylaws. So there is a change in here that just changes the numbers and instead says including members of the local governing body and an equal number of citizen members appointed by the governing body.
Right,
So I read this to mean that if we don't have 7 board members, we don't have to have 7.
if we don't have 7 citizens,
Mhm.
then we don't have to have 7 board members. So it read before that we had to have 14 members, 7 of them being board and 7 of them being citizens.
Mhm.
But I spoke with Jennifer about this and most or other agencies do not list the specific number. And especially when we have such a hard time getting people to join our committees,
Yeah,
that she said we could just say to include an equal number of citizens to board members.
Do we want a minimum though? I mean, like if it's only one citizen, are we saying one board member?
I would have to defer to Jennifer on that. I'm not sure what the. Currently, we have. Currently, we have 2 from last year that have stepped up and said they will be, they're supposed to do 3 years, but. I have 2 that confirm that they will continue to be on the committee, and then we have 2 applications.
and we
So-
can probably get more applications from our staff committee.
Those are who I reached out to, and I've only gotten 2.
What are you
Of the-
looking for in a budget committee member?
Just someone that wants to come and attend the meetings and provide input and,
Someone who wants to do their civic duty.
yes. But we do have to start the process in April, so we don't have much time,
I
because they
just-
have to be appointed by the board.
I just wonder though, for our policy, if we are okay now, but do we have to have a minimum, should we have a minimum number, or does it matter? Could it just be one citizen?
Jennifer, can you speak to that?
You wouldn't want it to just be one.
So we should
Yeah.
put a minimum, because it doesn't read the way it reads now, it could just be one and one.
We don't want that, but we also don't want to prevent ourselves from being able to create a budget.
There's just 2
But-
people.
I don't care. We have-
Okay,
we
so
have to have
if
a
you don't,
budget,
if you don't want a minimum, then it could be one and one potentially.
Well,
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you say,
it's not
do you
ideal.
say a minimum of 2 community, or, I mean, and so that would be 4 people.
well, we have 4 community well, we have 2 for sure and 2 applications, so then we'd have 4
Right.
board members.
No, I'm
Saying
not
in the
talking
event that
about,
we only
I'm
have
talking
Oh.
about, this is our policy, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so we need to, we can't address it for this year, we have to address it for future years too. So do we want to put the minimum in there, or do we want to just go by faith that we'll always have at least 2 people step up and leave it at that? Because technically, the way it reads, it could be 2 people on the committee.
But I think that if we're in a terrible situation like that, we still
'Cause-
need a budget.
We have had it posted on the website for weeks now.
Okay,
And
and I
I
have
shared
reached
it
out
on
to-
Nextdoor
Yeah.
and.
so
other
you're
places.
saying that we are okay, I have no problem, I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, I
That if
would
it
say-
came, worst case scenario, we're gonna say we'll allow 2 people to be the
To
budget
create the
committee.
budget, yeah.
They're only suggestions. I mean,
Right,
these people are making suggestions. So we still have to adopt whatever's
Right.
going
And
on.
we
Right.
can change it.
But yeah, we would have to really make sure that we're making every effort to recruit
Yeah,
Yeah,
applicants.
I know
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, so as long as we're making that effort, whether it's somebody or not. sure.
Historically, we have just had a really difficult time getting
Yeah.
people to
Yeah,
join our
Okay,
committees.
all right,
Get there.
sounds good.
so if everybody's okay with that change, I will entertain a motion to accept it.
so moved, the change.
Hassan made a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Greg?
Yep.
Seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alright.
Sherry,
Yeah,
this is Jennifer. So there is a line that says the bare minimum of people on a committee is 3, but the recommendation is to have at least 5. So the bare minimum is 3, recommendation is 5, just an FYI.
Okay, let's reopen this.
Right
bare
after,
minimum.
right after the motion
per
passes.
citizen Or bare minimum total?
I actually
it
say
would have to be
Total.
which means
You would-
4
But
would
you
be.
can't, you
No,
can't.
you would
afford
have-
3 or 5, it has to be even.
You have to
there
have
is-
equal, yeah, what Kathy is saying, you have to have equal numbers. So if you have 3 citizens as your bare minimum, then you have to have
Okay.
3 board members.
Okay, so we would have 4 technically this year, citizens and then 4 board
Right.
members. So
But
we
so
are-
do we have to put, it has to be a minimum of 2
we can,
for each spot because you have to have 3.
I believe that she said on a committee, there needs to be this many people. So
3.
that would mean 2 from the public and 2 from the board
Right.
would cover your 3.
Right. But
We
that's,
could just add a line at the bottom that says a minimum of 4 members is required.
Yeah,
Something like that,
make up this committee.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody wanna make a motion to
for
amend? this?
amendment.
I'll make a motion to amend it to, we need a minimum of 4 people on this committee.
Right.
And let them do the math, it's 2 and 2, but.
Of
Because they're
4.
equal.
so I will add that under the number of members. I will just add that as the last sentence.
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect. Okay,
So do we have to approve,
Yeah.
vote
Yes.
to approve?
Todd made a motion, is there a
I
second?
second.
Kathy seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? All right.
And now we have to mute Jennifer so we can get past this. If we can't amend the amend.
Oh, wait. Okay, budget committee, we have 2 applications. That's what we're on, right?
Yep.
Okay. We have 2 applications, one from Pat Stone and one from Ashley Hicks.
Ashley Hicks is currently a stiff staff committee member.
Yes.
Kat
And
Stone has been on the board in the past and she's also, on the
Been on
stiff
the-
staff.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And she's been on the budget committee.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
Yep, so she's done everything.
Yes,
All right, so
I'll make a motion to accept both of these people, Ashley and Kat Stone, Ashley Hicks and Kat Stone as members of our budget committee.
Second.
oh,
Oh, boy.
who should we give it to?
Lisa, cause she, or no, Doug hasn't. Have you had
Lisa
anything?
probably said it.
Okay, so Lisa hasn't had anything.
There's a delay, so we're accounting for the delay, Lisa. We're gonna let. her-
We want to see her name in print.
Okay, Todd made a motion, Lisa seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
So do
you
we
guys
have to
can welcome
decide?
them to
Yes.
our budget committee.
yes.
Do we have to decide who on the board is serving on the committee then?
That is true. We probably need to add that. An ad hoc agenda item. Or
Can we do it under new business or no?
We can do it on, under not on agenda, or if you guys are okay with it, we could just do it right now since we're talking about it. Unless anybody's opposed.
I missed that, I was reading this.
So, because we just changed our bylaws and we only have, how many members do we have?
4
Four.
We have 4 members.
of this.
We have
Community.
7 board members, which means only 4 of the board members can serve on the budget committee. So, we would need to decide who. By what date?
I'll have to go back and look at the timeline, but it's
Okay,
in
it's coming
April,
soon.
yeah. If we don't approve it at this board meeting, we won't be able to do the meetings.
Okay, so we need 4 board members to serve on the budget committee.
How many do we have from the public? We have 2 from the
We have
public.
4.
With 4.
Oh, we have 4 from the public.
These are just 2 new applicants, we
Oh.
already had 2.
I got you,
Mhm.
okay.
So we're just saying we need to appoint 4 of us to serve on the budget committee.
I think in, all fairness, that it should be John and Lisa since they're not here.
John, Lisa, did you hear that?
Oh, man.
Here.
There's a price to pay.
And we can mute them so they can't say no.
Well, I'll ask them first. John or Lisa, do you guys want to serve on the budget committee as 2 of our members?
Well, let's see if we have enough other volunteers. If we don't, I will do it.
Okay. Lisa, are you interested?
Yeah, I have a hard enough time getting to the meetings, to get from school to here, so,
So no on that.
yeah, I can't, yeah,
Pass.
It's a pass.
that's a pass.
Okay,
I was on it last year.
you wanna do it again?
That's my opt-out.
God.
Okay,
These meetings are all in person, is that correct?
You can do them
You can do them
via, you can
online.
do them online too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to. do
I
that.
don't-
And there's
I don't.
perhaps 5 meetings?
Depends on when the-
Generally, we have,
she said
it almost always takes
She
at
said
least
I'm
2.
doing something else.
And what, I'm
But
trying to remember,
if we
is it in the
need-
middle of the day,
No, we usually do them around this time.
in the evening?
Mhm.
It is harder for me with my parents' situation, but if I can do it out of the house and we have to have me do it.
Who organizes these meetings? Who is the organizer?
I'll have to organize them this year.
Cause it's you.
So you will basically be presenting, you might say, an agenda?
So, yeah, so normally what I do is I go through, I have a budgeting tool and I'll go through the budgeting tool and plug in all the numbers. I usually go based off of our actuals from the past year. And then kind of see where we're at. We know what we're projecting to get from the federal and state on the
Mhm.
income. And then we can add or subtract wherever we need to come up with a balanced budget.
Yep.
And is that where we're also talking about that 20% rule or whatever, you know, that we were having the issues with
Yes.
before? Would this be where we'd be discussing that? too?
Yes, so that is not going to be in the budget. I'm not
Okay,
going
so
to
we are
budget
not
for
even
that.
gonna have to
No,
think
we're
about
not
it.
even
Okay.
going to budget for that 20%. If we get it,
Mhm.
And
then we
decide
will
what to do with
decide
it.
what to
Okay,
do with it.
that's-
If we do not get it, we know at least what we need
Right.
or what we're expecting to get and what we're expecting to put out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Seeing as how we're down to the dredges, I would actually do it if you guys will, if we can do it online.
Yeah,
And if you guys will tolerate my ignorance, you know, I mean, I'll work with you on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Likewise.
It's not like
Yeah.
I'm a big
So
budget.
Todd, Kathy, Greg and John?
You give us plenty of heads up ahead of time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the main thing.
Did you say yes or no?
He said he didn't want
No,
to.
he,
do it.
he did last year, he said. Isn't
So
that?
Do you want to
So
do
he,
it?
he did say you were doing it.
Oh, you do?
Oh, so,
Okay.
oh,
So Doug,
okay, this is
pin
going
you down.
totally against principle.
So
The
Doug-
people that are actually here that are doing it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I am
You're
morally offended.
Okay, so we have Todd, Greg, Kathy and Doug. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Oh,
I'm
you
gonna have
guys.
to start.
It should be the
Well,
whole.
I'm gonna go get 2 more people two more citizens.
Exactly.
Girl.
Could be the whole board.
Except Lisa can't make
This
it.
is a forced issue.
That's why I
So-
said.
I will
yeah.
try to make it as
Except for
painless as
outside, we all-
possible and as
Yeah.
easy to understand.
They do need to, they need to elect a chair for the committee.
They will
First
at our
meeting?
first meeting, they'll elect a chair and a vice chair.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just keep that in mind, you guys. But, okay, so we have Todd, Greg, Kathy and Doug. We should probably approve this with a motion, right, to
Mhm.
add to the budget committee. Do I have a motion?
Can you repeat who the candidates are for this?
Not
I couldn't
you
quite hear
three.
you.
Yeah, it's Todd, Greg, Kathy and Doug.
There's no John. I love that.
There's no John.
Oh, don't worry, John, I'm gonna go recruit citizens to be on the committee.
Okay,
You're not off the hook.
okay.
You can make a motion, John, and finalize this.
Quickly.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's make a motion that we adopt these fine characters.
Perfect. Todd made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Todd seconded.
Suicide.
You're a trooper, Todd.
All right. All those in favor of these fine people serving on the budget committee, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Any opposed? Right. it passes. Okay.
Hey,
I think we should have had it stated as our name.
Okay, so we have, and do we have an update? at Leadership Screening Committee? I don't know who's heading that up. John, are you heading it up?
Are you talking about the CEO hiring or?
Yeah. Yeah, do we
Yes.
have an update?
No, I was gonna have a discussion about what the schedule is for that. And should we start convening meetings at this point or?
Yeah, I think it would be good to probably get that rolling and just have some recommendations to the board. This is, we do need to set a special meeting to be able to do interviews, to do final interviews. So I'm hoping that the screening committee can come up with our recommendations for our final candidates so that we can start doing final interviews. The contract technically is up April 18th, I believe. So we do want to be making a decision here fairly soon. So yeah, the sooner you guys can meet and get those recommendations over to us, and then I think we probably need to set a meeting to do final interviews, maybe the week before April 18th.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell me who the folks are on the screening committee besides myself?
Yeah, who did we have?
Todd and Greg.
Todd and Greg.
Yeah,
So,
Todd and Greg.
Oh.
And you, John.
Great, just three, all right.
The three amigos. And
All right.
I would like to, make sure that I just went through all my emails because I had like 10,000 of them. And I erased everything. And so I erased the file that I had with the applicants. So I was wondering, could you send me another file? I know that there were a couple applicants that were not in that file. Could I get a file of all of the applications? Do you guys have that? John, do you have that?
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't either.
Yeah.
The first thing we need is all three of us need all of the applicants so we can look through them
We
all.
can, you know what? We can do even better. I bet we can print them out before you leave.
That would be
That'd be
wonderful.
awesome.
And then is this an appropriate time to have a small conversation? Should we have it after this meeting?
Probably after this meeting,
Okay.
just because you can't really discuss any of the applicant information.
Well, that wasn't what I was gonna say. I was gonna say we need to figure out an appropriate methodology. In other words, are we gonna each refer like maybe 3 people to the final process or?
Let's do that
Right.
after it's all done.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk with John.
all right.
Okay, and then, yeah, if you guys can, maybe email me some recommendations, so that we can set those
I think you
interviews.
guys have, questions that they were asked, that you guys were
Mhm.
asking specifically
We
to the
did,
candidates before.
we
So
did.
maybe, do you still have that material? Could you forward that to them or?
I mean,
Or was
we
it a
kind of
different-
just made them up as,
Oh, okay.
but we did ask the same questions over and over and over
Right.
again. But
Since they
But
don't.
each of us, each of the people on the committee had come with their own questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, we didn't have a pre-meeting where we just had one set of questions for the candidate.
Right,
And
Okay.
I guess we could decide amongst ourselves whether we want to use that same approach.
Okay.
So I think
There's
first things
a
first is
number of
we need to
candidates.
have a meeting and talk about these things.
Yeah, there's a number of candidates and this is a pretty big deal. I mean, we're talking about hiring the general manager.
yeah,
So in the first go around, we're gonna have to eliminate quite a few people between us three, just to make this clear amongst us and in front of the board. We're gonna be eliminating out of maybe 10, 12, 14 people, we're gonna be eliminating most of them just on our word, on our decision-making process, so that we don't have an interviewing process that takes forever. And
Well, and what we did last time is that the screening committee didn't have the authority to eliminate people from the running. What they had is the authority to provide recommendations to the board, and the board has the ultimate authority. So
Yeah.
if the board looks at some of these applications and goes, I disagree for whatever reason, I want this person to be interviewed. They
Okay,
still
Yeah.
have the opportunity to be interviewed, because we don't want, this committee making the decision
Correct.
for the entire board. But
But
I
you're
agree
kind
with you.
of you're getting it down to the basic pros
Right.
and cons.
Yeah.
Why you guys are
Made that
favoring, yeah.
decision.
correct.
Exactly, yes.
We
Yeah.
gotta have
And
some
you're
sort
not.
of criteria to bring it to the next level.
How many applications do we have?
There were at least 10 when I looked at them.
I mean, as we've had two different pools, like as far as anyone applying for the job via Indeed. But qualified applicants, or at least semi-qualified, like I took out people that are Domino's driver and stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect.
I would say at least 20.
Oh, wow.
It's a
Hmm.
lot. I mean, this is,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. This process needed to be done this quickly.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to shave it pretty close. We're gonna have to use this committee
You don't need
to shave things down for the board.
It's just gonna be-
You know, it's gonna be an important part of the game is for the committee to shave it down somewhat. Not say you can't talk to this person, but say, the board's gonna have to, we're all board members, all three of us on the committee are board members too, you gotta remember that.
Sorry, you guys.
So this what we do for this board in preparing this process is gonna be important. That's what
Absolutely.
I'm saying here.
Absolutely.
Can you send us your questions, kind of what you asked before, just to give us?
I will look and see if I have them written
I
down.
have it for HVAC, I have it for law enforcement, but
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
curious
we
the
all,
difference.
like John said, we all kind of
Hey,
just came up.
you know, the questions that we generate, the questions that we generate generally are maybe very different from one applicant to the next.
Well,
It's not necessarily the same, because you'll look at an application and you'll work it through your mind. How do I want to explore this person's qualifications? So, just a point of clarification, make sure that we don't go down the wrong path. If we're faced with 20 applicants initially, I want to hear from Michaela, especially on this. And we can, amongst the three of us on the committee, we can eliminate some of those people from the very beginning. In other words, we just don't think they're qualified, and we don't want to waste our time doing any interviews of 4 or 5 of the 20. Am I accurate in that assessment?
Yeah, so John, what we would want to see is if just your reasoning behind why those are not top candidates and why we are moving forward with other candidates instead. So we just want some reasoning behind that. And
Yes.
ultimately, what it comes down to is the board can veto that and say, we don't agree, we do want to interview this person. That's probably not going to happen. You guys have good judgment, but in the event that the board doesn't agree, we want to be able to interview. The board has the authority to interview whoever they want.
Right.
But we're just looking for recommendations. So yeah, if you pare that down to, 3 to 5 candidates potentially, then we have the final interviews, just like we did last time, where we're all present. We all participate in the final interviews. That's where you take a look at their resume, you study that, make sure that you know the questions you want to ask those specific people when they come in the room. So we do
Yeah,
those
okay,
interviews in executive session.
Okay, I got it. Thanks. That helps.
I think Jennifer's got her hand up too.
Yeah, Jennifer, what's up?
Typically for candidates, you will have some sort of a scoring rubric that you would do, and you would ask the same questions of all the people or looking at the same information. So you would have a score sheet with like 10 criteria, and if they met it, and depending on what their score was, then those people would be moving forward in your process. And then you, as the board, would also have a scoring sheet. I mean, that's what typically happens with interviewing. Because if you're asking different questions to different people, then you're not truly getting a good representation of what the people, you're not asking the same thing. You're asking different questions to different people. So I would be cautious about just asking questions and then not having some sort of a scoring rubric or matrix or something like that. And I would imagine that George would probably be somebody who would have something that he would recommend for that.
Mhm.
I also have a scoring sheet, that I have from HR Answers from
Mhm.
special districts, so, and it has those, like Jennifer was saying, those different categories, so I can always
Perfect.
pass that on to you guys and you guys can
Yeah.
decide if you want.
Is it necessary that we even interview? Is it necessary that this committee that I'm one of the 3 members of, is it necessary that we interview all these people? Or can we do an initial pass through and say, you know, to be honest with you, I'm looking at this guy's resume and I'm not interested in interviewing this person. That's my recommendation, that there's no reason to spend time on this person. Is that acceptable in the first phase, that being this committee, Jennifer?
So could I step
Typically
in?
oh, I'm sorry, George.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Jennifer.
Oh, yeah. What you would typically do is have like 10 criteria that you would have that do these people meet these 10 criteria? If they don't, then you can throw them out the door. Their applications wouldn't necessarily pass on, but you should
Okay.
have specific criteria that you're looking for in the job. And then those people that do have those criteria, they could be moved forward.
Okay,
That is very
So-
helpful.
so you have that, that's what you're
So-
talking
So,
If I
so
could-
maybe George,
Matrix.
you could work with Sherry on giving, and Sherry could email a list of criteria pretty quick here, because this is happening. And then that we can get started on this.
So,
We can get
this is-
information straight from the job description.
Well, some of it you won't, but some of it you will. Go ahead, George.
So here's my recommendation. The rubric is really important. And as a board, you can do a scoring rubric, but you want to make sure that your scoring rubric has the proper definitions to what does a 1 mean? What does a 5 mean? There's
Yeah.
also a non-scoring rubric, which more meets like definitions of what the board is looking for. And that's something that I could provide. And I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to pare it down so that way you don't have to interview everybody. And my
Yeah.
recommendation to the board is you have to have pretty strict guidelines of what are your minimum qualifications for an individual to even qualify, right? And you can phase people in your funnel that don't meet the minimum qualifications. As long as you have that clearly defined in your position description, you shouldn't have to waste your time nor the applicant's time that, let's say, looking for as a general manager and the only experience they have as being, you know, in McDonald's flipping burgers for the past 5 years, right? You don't want to waste their time. Those are people that I would say that I feel confident in your rubric, that you would say that's a definite no. They don't even meet the minimum requirements. Now, once you've identified who the people that have passed the minimum requirements, then that's when the committee can come up with its scoring rubric, again, that I can provide, and then you can rank them. And then as a
That would be
board,
very
Yeah, that'd be
helpful.
very helpful.
you can then say,
Although
okay,
Amira
based off of
already
these
did
evaluations, we
mention-
want to interview this threshold of people according to the rubric.
Yeah,
So
and I
the-
would just
what-
I would just like to say, George, you know, follow up on that. This rubric issue is very important because, for instance, a rubric can be experienced as a general manager. And a lot of these people that I looked at had experience as general managers and CEOs. And a rubric can also be experience in the transportation district arena. So there's a difference. So it's experience as a general manager versus experience in the transportation industry that can make a big change in who we consider. I mean, it really can. So that one technical detail in the rubric is an important one, especially for us in this process.
So, yeah, can
Exactly.
can I,
Well, that's where,
I just wanted to interject something about, hiring applicants, it's been my experience. You really, you never want to paint yourself into a corner with, a matrix, okay, of developing a selection matrix, attaching numbers, because sometimes you're gonna run into a candidate that, uh, he's just a superstar, okay, for whatever reason. Something about him sets him apart. And you don't want to have this matrix tie you push you into a corner of having to select somebody. It's I mean, this kind of floats into the world of engineering and physics and folks like that.
Right, we just use it as a
Yeah.
guideline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just, yeah, I just
hear what you're
don't, I
saying.
don't
Yeah,
wanna,
we
I don't wanna,
recommending
I don't want a
using the
process that,
Right.
Right.
that takes away from, when you have something that's a special case, a special criteria, and you can score that as high or as low as you want to, and it means something. In other words, not everything's 1 to 5 points, 2 to 5 points, 3 to 4. You know, there's once in a while there's going to be somebody that deserves 25 points, and you got to have that ability. It has to allow whatever we come up with has to allow for deviations from the norm, so to speak. So.
Remember
Yeah.
too, you guys, that Amira already
You're right.
has eliminated the people that absolutely are not qualified at all. So she's
Yeah.
already taken those, so we already have that step done.
Sounds like by about half.
Yeah,
Over half, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, I mean, that's good. That's good that that's been done. So anyway,
Well, we
I
got, the
think,
three of us, I actually think will be good people to do this. I've worked with these other two guys enough to know that I think that we can provide the board what they need.
That's why we selected you.
Oh, I thought we got forced into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
All right.
With that said, we are going to need to do a special meeting to conduct final interviews. Obviously, we haven't talked to these people to find out whether or not they can attend, but I think we should try to conduct all of the interviews on one day if we can for the board. Do we want to look at a time to do that right now?
Our decision has to be April, the next board meeting, is that correct?
It needs
It's
to be
before.
before that
It
because
needs to be before,
our CEO's contract ends
On the
on
18th.
April 18th, and our
Which is a
next board
Friday,
meeting is on April
21st.
21st. We will have a weekend without
That ends on the
CEO.
17th.
Like the 7th of
Ends
April
on the
already?
17th?
We better get on it.
I know it.
I checked
Oh.
the contract and it's in the-
Yeah, we'll need that, we'll need what, all this rubric, this information, as soon as, the three of us will need that as soon as
We're
possible.
gonna have a- Okay,
What do you think?
we're sending it by the day.
What? When's our next board meeting?
So
21st
April
of April.
21st. So ideally, we should conduct interviews potentially April 7th. Which gives a couple weeks. Our other option, and this is something that we probably have to talk to George about for procurement, is potentially extending our interim contract by a month or some period of time to finish this process, so. I
You're
don't know.
extending the interim?
Mhm.
In other words, we're not gonna get it done. in time.
I mean, I think we are putting ourselves under an unreasonable deadline right now. And we would be acting in haste, which is not necessarily, if we have this many candidates. I just don't think it would be wise to try and do it. So I would be much more in favor of a short extension
Mhm.
to make sure that we are making a good decision. That's my opinion.
So then the question would be, and I don't have it, you have the contract?
In the emails, yeah.
I don't know if there's an option to extend, and I don't, and we would have to talk to George about that, so that's not even something we can really consider right now.
We can get it done.
Meeting.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to get, I think we should just intend to get it done. We'll get it
We'll just get it
done.
done.
So,
Give us the day that you
Yep.
need.
so I think we should do our final interviews on April 7th if possible.
okay, so I gotta tell you that I'm gonna be out of town from April
What
3rd to
about-
April 8th.
Oh, okay.
What about like?
I'm
towards the
I'm
end of
sorry,
that
that's,
week?
No, no
Like
problem.
On the 11th.
April 11th.
Yeah, what about, that's a Friday, but it would give them a few more days.
Yeah, we could do April 11th, if that's okay with everybody.
April 11th, we're going to actually do our interviews as the board.
Yeah.
So when does the
It'll be
board
all day.
want our information? By what date do you need our information to the board?
yeah,
I mean, we're going to have to start setting up interviews. Amira's probably gonna need a week to do that,
Yeah.
correct? So April 4th.
Okay, April 4th, us three need to have the
But
information that we're
John's
giving
gonna be
you.
out of town,
Okay, so yeah. it'll-
starting April 3rd, he said.
But he can have it
yeah,
done.
I'm out of pocket from April 3rd to April 8th.
So you guys then need to have it done by April 2nd.
Yeah, we need to have the information to Amira,
Mhm.
by April 2nd, so that she can get it to you and we can set up the interviews.
Okay.
Is that right? I think it is.
And
Jesus.
we,
But we're still not having that opportunity for them to be telling us why they reached that
so let me.
decision.
No, they can, because they
Yeah.
can send their report recommendation to all of us so that we can see those recommendations. Then I think that the way to solve not having another meeting would be that if any board member disagrees and would like to add another interview
There you go.
to the mix, that they can do that, but they're not going to have the recommendation from the committee.
That's fine. So get us the rubrics that George and you are working on as quickly as possible.
And we're gonna do the interviews on the 11th.
Yeah.
No, we'll
Interviews,
take that day
Yeah.
off.
interviews on the 11th, and we're gonna have our information in by April 1st. Yeah,
April 2nd.
Next second.
So we won't do a time for the meeting yet, because that will be dependent on when you can secure interviews for, okay. So we have the day set aside.
And can these interviews be virtual? I mean, obviously preferable in person, but.
We want them in person.
they'll have to be, some of them will have to be
Yeah, we have to
virtual.
Really?
Some,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think-
because we do have
did.
some,
Not everybody's gonna come.
well, and we do have
We
some
have out of
applicants
state.
that are.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of state.
Applying to
There's a
out of
number
state.
of them, they're out of state.
We did them
Nice.
virtually last time. It
Oh,
worked out.
okay.
Well, the board was here, the
Mhm.
interviews were virtual, but.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we want to give them that option whether they want to be in person or not, or just do virtual?
I think they can come if they want to.
I don't know, it would be nice just to do virtual in a way too, you know, I mean. I don't know.
Kind of makes it easy.
It does, because, you know, when I remember our interviews last
Yeah.
time, and it was, you know, kinda, I don't think it would make much difference whether it was person to person
That's true.
or virtual.
Well, and the other problem that we run into, because that's done in executive session, is we don't have a waiting area that's away
Exactly.
from the boardroom.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah,
You
I
have
think,
this-
I think it'd be better to do it
Yeah,
virtually.
people back there.
Yeah, no, it was an
Okay.
issue, a bit of an issue.
It was an issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would prefer to do it
Okay,
virtually.
So yeah, let's have them attend virtually, and then the board is welcome to be here or virtual.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was a good discussion, you guys. We don't have any action taken on that. And then do we have any updates on the resolution that we passed this last time? We had talked about looking at policy changes potentially to be in alignment. Do we have any?
I don't
No.
Nothing to report on that right now, except we brought Title VI up to speed, obviously. But we haven't really started going into the policy yet for that resolution, but I believe the resolution gave us till June, May. Yeah,
Well, I think we're waiting for directives to come down, to
Right.
filter down, right?
Well, the executive orders are already in place, so we just want to make sure that those are sort of matching up with our.
we're ahead, the resolution was ahead of the FDA, but not ahead of the president. But we can still go through and make those modifications. We're just closing out, we're not really waiting, we're just closing out the audit.
Right,
Yeah.
but we actually
Compliance
put some
issues.
of that into,
We put some of that into the Title VI and we've
Yeah.
added that in, so we're moving on it. Yeah, we'll make sure that We'll have it done by
We'll
May.
just leave that in old business when we're doing agenda build, so we can track that. Okay, let's move on to 10.1, revised employee handbook. I think George is probably speaking on this one.
Yeah. George, are you gonna speak on the employee handbook?
Yes.
There you
Here I am. Perfect. So with the employee handbook, nothing major changed except for making the language just a little bit easier to understand and shore it up a little bit. And so it went through screening through HR answers, and we were given the green light. Again, nothing major. It's just making it easier to understand.
So the only thing that I saw in this, and thank you for making these changes, because you taught me something, because I looked it up. But this, I was confused about the bias being added in, and I see that they changed the OFLA laws to include bias crime, right, as a covered, reason for leave. I just think that where we have bias in here, it should say bias crime, just to avoid confusion, because it's applicable to that specific law.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so where you have bias written under the domestic violence leave, it's bias crime is what the law calls it. It's a bias crime.
You're looking at the last one. then.
No, Gene, on page
It's on-
2, 3,
Yeah, right, but
or 63.
63 of 89.
yeah.
Bias crime, yeah.
Both times there.
So,
right there.
and the only reason I say that is because we're talking about a specific area of the law that is a bias crime. We're not talking about any time there's bias against somebody. And I just want to make sure that that's clear, that that's what we're specifically talking about. So I would just recommend adding the word crime after bias.
Sure.
Makes sense. Under domestic and under safety measures.
Yeah, there's two of them on there. There might be another one on the other page that I'm not sure.
I don't think. It was just the.
Two of them.
The last page is what you're talking about, the bio.
Oh, yeah. Is there a third one? Oh, yeah, see, it does say bias crime. the
Yeah,
third one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I would just add it to those first two.
Could you tell me specifically what page you're looking at?
Yeah, page 63 of 89.
63.
Under domestic violence leave.
These together, George.
And under what, I'm sorry, I'm reading this through really quick. I'm not,
Domestic violence leave, first paragraph. Second line.
The statute, sexual assault, bias, or stalking, but it should say bias crime.
Can you bring it up on the?
I'm
They
sorry.
have safety measures.
I've tried to see it here.
Can you see the
There,
screen?
right there.
Can you see the screen, George?
Yeah,
You see where it says bias?
you're right.
That's where Michaela's asking to put bias crime.
And then
Oh.
under safety measures.
Mhm.
Okay, that's interesting. On my copy, I don't even have it on here. It must have been something that HR answers put in there that I didn't see.
Oh, okay.
It is on the back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the last page, it's
Correct.
correct. It says bias crime.
Okay,
But yeah, the
Makes
first
sense.
two just say bias, so I think if we just add crime,
Mhm.
I am fine with all the rest of the changes, I think they're great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll add this onto the pretty simple. I'm updating it now as we speak.
Oh, perfect, okay.
Yeah, that must have been something that was added because that's not a change that I had made because I don't even have it on my copy when I sent it over.
And you did it to the
Wonder he's
two
confused.
Yeah,
times
that's
on that page?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, I saw it. Okay, those are updated now.
Thank you.
All right, and any other questions on this one? All right, I will entertain a motion to accept these changes with the addition of crime being added after bias 2 times.
So moved.
Kathy made a motion,
Second.
Doug seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? All right. Okay, where? Driver safety, that's Doug.
So. I was thinking that periodically I get on buses and ride and just kind of check things out. One of the things I noticed. Last time I was riding. Is. Our connection stop is at Washington Street up by the old,
Washington and Rose.
yeah, Washington and Rose. It's a dirty, old. Shelter. Not very well lit. And it's in an area where homeless tend to congregate. Also, what I've noticed is it tends to be. Either by plan or by design or just how it works out. That the drivers a lot of times will take their breaks there and get off the bus and do what they need to do. I'd never witnessed a shift change before. This last time, the off-going driver had the cash box and took it and assuming he'd bring it back to the office here. That's a horrible place to do that.
Mm.
Now, 2 stops down at VHS, we have a brand new shelter. Off-street parking, you're not blocking traffic, there's no traffic going by. It's well lit, there's cameras in place. It's also right by I-5 going north and south. And I would like to see that become that connection stop. Now, I don't know how we do that, you have to notice to the public. Make sure the riders, and give enough time. Where the riders. Wouldn't be sitting at Washington and Rose wondering why their connection wasn't there. But I would like to move towards moving that stop down to DHS.
So that is
That
a
would be a motion, I guess.
recommendation. Well, is it?
I don't know.
Is that something that we need a motion for? I mean, that's
The-
sort of an operations type of,
Yeah.
Well, and it has to go through a public process, so it's
yeah.
not something that we can.
We can just, I think it
Yeah,
sounds like a great
Yeah,
recommendation.
It just makes
I don't know.
sense to me.
If Andre can add any insight
Yeah,
to it,
I
cause
wanna
he
hear from
knows,
Andre.
he knows more about the connection site and all of that.
Andre, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
so could you give a little bit of insight into what we would need to do to change that, or if you,
I know it has to go through public forum. The only issue I have is the DHS butt stop, if that's what Doug is talking about. There are 2 times during the day that it is a traffic nightmare while
Mhm.
school is in session. And it would create a massive gridlock there by the Mountain Mike's Pizza and all that. Because we don't even service DHS twice a day, and that's before school and after school. And then one day a month, they have their vendor fair there and we don't go in that parking lot at all.
Cause that's the one where it winds down and it's very
Yes.
challenging to get to. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
another-
but
That's- I
and
went
Doug,
down that route, yeah.
in respect for Doug, yes, I've thought of other places other than Washington and Rose due to the crime that's down there and everything else. But DHS would create a nightmare during school.
Yeah, and that's something I don't get to see because it's normally a weekend that I ride.
Yeah.
Right.
Part of the other issue is that, where it's located right now downtown is right around the corner from the downtown office. So the bus, like Doug was saying, our drivers can get off, they can do their bathroom breaks there, they can have their lunch. So that's just the perfect time for them to do all of those things.
Changes.
Yeah, but,
And what about at night?
they have keys to the building, to our office, even if the office is closed, our drivers have a key to get in, use the bathroom.
What can we do to make that stop more safe?
We call the police constantly. The only thing is.
We can barely hear you, Andre.
Okay, I would say, let me open up my computer. Maybe that's the problem. Can they hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that one of the biggest things would be either to have security, but that requires budgeting to afford that process.
Is there additional lighting that we could at least add?
Lighting.
Right now, right now, Washington and Rose, that building that used to be Safeway is now owned by the tribe. We don't know what the final product is going to be there.
And that might clean up some of the issues I'm talking about too.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Where?
yeah.
Yeah.
The Rite Aid, yes.
The right, yes.
Yeah, right across from Rite Aid.
Right, yeah, I just talked with the bus drivers, we had an incident with a couple transients there. Cause the city allows them to keep on the sidewalk. We don't have a
Right.
window in there that's not broke,
Yeah,
so. Yeah.
The state prevents the city from moving them from the
Right,
sidewalk.
exactly. But that's a
Because-
pretty high traffic as far as police as we go. We check it 2 or 3 times a day for the tribe. So we check that pretty often now. That'll be
Okay.
Is there a specified time that these things are happening that you could maybe coordinate? Trying to have the police presence when this is going
So,
on?
yes, so we pretty much check it at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
If there's somebody on day shift now, we've got 2 extra police officers have been added. So between 8 and 9, we're pretty much always there, and between about 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we
so
swing by.
I would
wonder-
like, could I interject on that? Our biggest trouble time is between 11 and 2. We seem to have a high transient population that like to hang out there at Jackson and Washington and Rose, and I have to call RPD constantly because they're trying to get on the bus illegally. They're treating our drivers not well. So we are
Yeah, and then
definitely
just
having
keep-
issues.
Yeah, keep doing that whenever there's somebody on there or something, and because the city's the one that's allowed and the state have allowed that, so we arrest them and we throw their stuff away in the tribe. The police,
Okay.
our police department, so we don't have those same rules, but so, by all means, keep calling if there's something.
Oh,
I know.
absolutely. They know me by
Station's
name.
right.
They don't even
Yeah.
ask who I work for anymore.
Yep, perfect, nope, that works.
So, but yeah, I mean, DHS is a nice spot, but it's just not feasible during the week. I know that eventually, maybe down the road, maybe if funding allows, it would be nice to maybe at one time be able to build a transfer site and have out and have a area where bus drivers can do exchanges and have an area for tickets and get rid of the downtown office and kind of pull ourselves away from there. But I know that a lot of students are moving in downtown and that kind of creates a need down there.
Yeah.
The plan for that is like some type of city beautification that it's supposed to be put in play. But the reason the tribe is we balked on it is because until they change the rules, it's just gonna be another place for them to
Exactly.
destroy and everything.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely,
the place,
yeah.
place was built in 63.
Yeah.
And, we never, all the windows have been in it except for the last 5 years. So that
Yeah.
tells you what the problem is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I've even had Flixbus and Greyhound approach me because it's been so dangerous for their patrons as well.
So we kicked Greyhound out. We don't let them go there anymore.
Right. Because they were basically bringing homeless to Roseburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were bringing.
They were bringing criminal
Yeah.
homeless. to
Yes.
Roseburg.
You could get a ticket to Roseburg, you couldn't get a ticket out of Roseburg.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so that
Crazy
should
how that
help.
works.
Yeah.
Like the Hotel
that-
California.
That should help. That's been pretty recent.
Where should we take these guys? Get them a ticket to Roseburg on a Greyhound.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So that-
actually, we had a driver met a guy from Minnesota, and he actually had a bus ticket, and they told him to get off at Roseburg in Oregon.
Yep,
Oh, jeez.
get a lot of that.
So,
I'm sure.
that's to do with local government that needs to stop allowing it.
Mhm.
So that kind of transitions us into my next subject. One of the other things that I've noticed riding buses is almost every time I've gotten on, there has been someone on that bus that has made me wish I wasn't on that bus. And thank God nothing has happened yet. But no one had shut up UCC yet until October 1st, 2015. And I want to make a motion to allow our drivers to carry any legal self-defense product up to and including concealed carry of a firearm if they're properly licensed and comfortable doing so.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
All right, Doug made a motion.
Well,
Second.
that we're, if it's a firearm, we're gonna open ourselves up.
So.
Yeah, we have to look at
we have a
FTA
motion, we have a
guideline on
second.
that too.
Now let's open it up for discussion.
You do have a second.
Yeah, I second.
We had a second, so let's go ahead and discuss, because we haven't discussed yet. Go
Okay.
ahead, you first.
Yeah,
Or
Um,
actually, Doug, you can go first if you want.
Yeah,
since
go
it's your
ahead.
motion.
If there's a concern, go ahead and
Okay.
express it.
well, if we have federal and state, so like for law enforcement, we have to go through instead background, you have to, before you use deadly force. You have to try to use 2 non-lethal, that's why we have a taser and we have OC, right? So I'd be concerned, my concern is, just going through some type of small training for firearms is not going to be enough. That's the only thing.
As a civilian, I don't have to make those steps. If I can reasonably express that I was in fear for my life, I can use deadly force for protection of myself or another. Now, that becomes an individual responsibility when they get that permit and choose to carry.
However, by us having a policy, it is not an individual choice anymore. It
No,
is a
yep, it is
huge
absolutely-
liability.
It is absolutely an individual choice
No,
because
it's
no
not.
one would be
One at
required
a
to
time.
carry.
One at a
Okay,
time.
I disagree because you are sanctioning it as an organization. They already have the ability to do that. And we do not have to give them the ability because they already have it with the Second Amendment. They already have the ability to get a concealed weapons carry. They can walk into any building they want or any thing they want and have a concealed weapon. And until they use it or are questioned about it, nobody is gonna say anything.
Right.
And I say, that's the way it is for a reason. I would shudder to think of the financial expense we'd have for insurance for the liability.
Can I speak to this as the
Yeah.
CEO potentially? Because we did do some research on the expense of this. We're looking at least $200,000 right off the bat, okay? For this year, next 12 months, in terms of making sure that we have at least 50,000 in the bank, ready for the first incident. that we have, our insurance rates will go up, our liability will go up by about $150,000 in the first year. Okay, it's really a heavy toll. And I think to what Kathy was saying, I agree, like, I'm a huge advocate for the Second Amendment. Everybody in this state has the Second Amendment. Okay, and there's lots of politicking going on around trying to thwart that right, but it is an inalienable right. Okay, God gave us the right to carry protection. The second, as a government agency, that we say our drivers can carry, by doing that, by making this motion, by making this resolution, we're now becoming the responsible party for drivers who carry. And the fact of the matter is that the drivers are not, it's not within their scope of their career to understand how to use two non-lethals, diffuse the situation through de-escalation tactics before they blow somebody away on the bus. Okay, they're not security officers. They're not trained to be security officers. Now, they all have the same rights you and I do as the Second Amendment. Okay, and that is not something that we have a policy against. We aren't against the Second Amendment. So having those drivers do that is going to put the district in a really dangerous position. And that's my opinion as the CEO.
That includes a taser. That includes any.
I don't care. Yeah, you have the right. You have the right under the Second Amendment to bear arms.
Yeah.
And an arm could be a baseball bat, okay,
Yeah.
a hammer.
Yeah,
It could be a firearm. It could be a knife. It could be bear mace, whatever that might be. My recommendation to address the issue, which is valid, Doug. I've ridden the bus here too, and I've also ridden the bus in Portland. So I can tell you that they get sketchy sometimes. But what our drivers really need is to be equipped with the ability to de-escalate situations.
They're already good at that. I can attest to that. They're extremely good at that.
I can attest that they're not. Okay, so that they're not good at that. We don't have any evidence that they're good at that. I don't have any. I've never seen it. However, I can say that that's where we need to invest in our drivers, because that can equip them with confidence to handle a situation or buy time. Because if you're truly trained in de-escalation and you're trained in security matters, it's about time. It's about buying 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, so that you can get a professional who does know who is constantly training, staying frosty, as they say, police officers, armed security guards. You're constantly training, because when something goes down, okay, physiologically, our fingers stop moving, our brains stop working. It is all training and reaction. And so if you have somebody in a situation where they're going into fight or flight, right, and they're a bus driver, very damn good bus driver, but now they're carrying a firearm and they're in fear of their life, this is where someone may die that doesn't need to die that day.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what this is about. Everyone has the Second Amendment. I have it. We all have it. They have it. But the second we say, we're going to now make this our official position.
That's like you said, that's why cops train constantly, and why you're still having situations where people go, how could that happen? And these are people that train constantly,
They also have a different standard as well.
so.
And we also need to put pressure on the city, Doug, because you're the spirit of where you're coming from is so valid. It's incredibly invalid. It's very valid. Okay, but we have to talk to the city and say, get these guys off our bus stops. Okay, and then we gotta go and we gotta talk to the city and say, we need lighting down here. We need to have these collaborations. Now, for the last 3 months, we've been, sucked into dealing with the issues we're dealing with. Those issues are behind us now that you made these motions today. So now we as an agency, get to prioritize what we're doing next. And we've already been doing that. The big priority is getting out and building these relationships with our community. Those relationships can really help to strengthen the security of our drivers and our passengers. And if we can work with the city, we can, I'd rather defy, our state representatives who say that we can't move homeless people off a sidewalk. I'd defy that law all day long, because we're creating less risk, not creating more risk.
Absolutely.
And so, there's I think there's lots of ways to look at it, but again, huge advocate for Second Amendment. I would never tell anybody to not carry their firearm, okay? I would never tell them not to. But I don't think we should tell the world that we should say, go ahead and carry your firearms, and this is our new policy. That's where the line really is.
How about an enforcer? You know, how about one person that works for us?
Yeah.
That when a bus driver's having problems with a route, he says, I need to have the enforcer ride with me today.
So TriMet does this, but TriMet actually contracts with armed security and contracts with even police officers. I mean, they have a TriMet, we have a Metro Police in Portland. As the community grows and changes and develops and our district grows, I think it's an imperative that we invest in security, not only security training, but security response teams. If we had somebody on staff for this size district, it would be amazing if we had somebody who is the beginning of a response team where we have 6 days of service and we have someone available. And
Well, and do we have the opportunity to partner with the police, for instance? Can we have?
Well,
ride-alongs?
you pretty much already are,
Mhm,
because that's all we're doing on day shift is
mhm.
dealing with transients.
Yeah,
And the only people that do deal with the transients is our tribal police, because we arrest them and we take their stuff and we throw it in the garbage.
mhm.
So the state and the city has to pay by all these different rules. And then the biggest problem that we have with this is the legalization of drugs. We are the only state that has legalized hard
Right.
drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now we have the violent criminals coming in,
Right.
and that's where you're seeing the problem. You go to our jail and there's people that are out of their minds.
Mhm.
And that is our biggest problem. And until we get that solved, we're gonna continue to have the problems we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it says is you've got across the clinic there, because we go check the clinic, that we have our clinic there in Edenbauer.
Mhm.
And you got the clinic there. They have 2 security people now because Albertson has shut down.
Yeah.
And they have them walking the gals back and forth every day, all day.
And that would be a better usage of our money, I feel.
Right.
If we have to address it right now, would be to hire security for specific times or whatever.
Well, he was already saying it's between 2 and 11.
Yeah,
And the reason probably that is because we're checking that area in the morning and we're
Right.
checking that after 5.
yeah,
So they know not to go there then.
that
Exactly.
200 grand we would spend on insurance,
Right.
We could
Right.
be applying, yeah, we
Well,
could
let's
apply
think
towards
about
something
that.
practical.
Budget committee.
Yeah, something to ease into, something, this is a good conversation to have
Yeah.
tonight.
it's a good, yeah,
Thank
Doug,
you
it's
for
a
bringing
great
it up.
conversation, it's a very good thing.
We need to do
Don't
something.
think we're against you on the Second Amendment thing, please. Don't think
Yeah.
that at all.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, and the reason why I wanted it in policy, is we can sit here now and we can say, we're not gonna fire a driver for carrying on the job. We don't have a written policy, we're not gonna fire someone on the, does it? We're not gonna be here forever. And I wanted it codified, that we're not gonna fire a driver ever. Because they decided to carry on the job.
Well,
And all of a sudden, now they have to use it because they're in a life or death situation.
well, like I say, is that security thing is something where somebody is an enforcer. It's a
Right.
great idea.
And the
So-
other thing is, it's better left, excuse me, Michaela, the other thing is, it might be better left where it is. I mean, because of all the conversation we just
Right.
had,
Right.
because of liability. Even to go anywhere with it may not be the right thing to do right now. Maybe a whole different direction is the right thing to do. Security.
So we do have a motion on the table and Lisa and John haven't had an opportunity to speak and I just want to double check. Lisa or John, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, but I
Oh, I
just.
don't,
I don't, but
Sorry,
I was gonna
Lisa.
say that I do agree with you gotta be persistent on the phone calls. I cleaned out a parking lot over the summer by just calling the police every day to remove cars that people were living in and stuff like that. So you just have to be persistent and call them all the time. And they will get on it because they get sick of you calling them. But you can't give up. You gotta call like every week the same time or whatever it takes.
Yeah,
Takes 3 responses. So if you have 3 different responses, they have to show up.
oh, No, thank you. John, did you have anything?
No, that's interesting, conversation, I'm learning a lot here.
Three separate people, that's a crime, it's disorderly conduct, so we can actually go after that.
Okay. Okay,
Three separate
I
cars.
am going to close our discussion if you guys are okay. We're gonna take a vote on this motion. So do you want to repeat your motion?
Do stuff.
Yeah, the motion was to allow our drivers to carry any lawful self-defense product up to and including a firearm for licensed concealed carriers.
I would like to amend, if it's possible, that motion. And the amendment would be that we're not going to write that, I don't know how to phrase this, but they're already allowed to do that. They already have a Second Amendment. We just got done talking about that.
We don't need to change.
So
that,
you
we just
don't,
need to
you're,
post it.
that, we don't need to amend, it's the motion, then we vote for it or not.
Mhm.
You're going back to the argument,
Mhm.
Yeah, and the argument is, we don't need
right?
to state that in any written form or any stated form.
Right,
In other words, so your motion, it's already in place.
Right.
They already have that right to do. We're just not saying they have that right to do it.
I think what Doug is looking for is protection from any sort of
Right.
disciplinary action for carrying.
So the motion could be changed to, we make a motion that we will not take disciplinary action for drivers who utilize their Second Amendment at work.
You do that motion, I'll be getting a call from the insurance agents tomorrow.
So in other words,
They're gonna say, you're now, your insurance rates are now $100,000 a year.
same thing, it's all the same thing. Everything's the
Doug
same.
needs to decide what he wants to as his motion,
Right.
and then we can vote on
Well,
it.
he
Yes.
has a motion.
Yep,
It has not been amended. It has been seconded,
okay.
correct?
Or it can be tabled till more research can be done. I don't know. Those are the options.
It
right?
can also be tabled if additional research wants to, if you guys want to do additional research.
I think we just leave it the way it is.
Okay,
Well,
let's,
then
It's up to
go ahead and
Doug.
vote.
It's up to Doug how he wants to deal with it.
Yeah, vote on the motion.
We have a motion, we have a second, so let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay,
All right, the motion does not pass.
So Doug made the motion and who's second?
I did.
Todd,
Todd, okay, sorry.
I just am happy that you opened up something,
Yeah, thank you.
because this
Good.
is going to be, it is gonna be addressed.
Mhm.
And that is because of you bringing it up.
I agree,
Yeah,
and I think every single person on this board supports the Second Amendment.
Big time.
And the spirit of this is to recognize the Second Amendment, and I appreciate that you did bring that forward,
Yeah.
because we do want to publicly announce that we support our Second Amendment. I think it would be great if we could have maybe some attendance at the city council meeting, see if we can maybe get some better lighting. And then, maybe we can do our part as well in looking into having security for that window, that 3-hour window, where we are seeing a significant problem. So,
Verbal judo is taught. There's a verbal judo class that's taught that's extremely valuable for the drivers.
yeah,
I talked to, because I just talked to this week to the one driver, I can't remember his name, but he was real helpful, so. You brought up some good.
And that would be neat if we offered it where we can have
Yeah.
it for them here, or wherever, so we're offering these classes.
Yeah, well, the college teaches the reserve class, there's one whole half a class, it's verbal judo that they teach, and our drivers could sit into that.
Mm.
yeah,
That'd be
Oh,
great.
that would be great.
yeah, if you could get that
And it-
information maybe over
Sure.
to.
To
Who,
Amira.
Amira, okay,
Well, and more than that 3-hour window during the middle of the day. It's at night that I worry about.
yeah,
I mean, the darkness brings out bad stuff.
well.
Yeah, they wake up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they wake up and get out. I've seen it out here too. It's like Portland, it's like the zombies are out.
I mean, during
During the fall and the winter months, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we save lives.
But true, like I say, our problem is the legalization of hard drugs, and we're the only state that's allowed meth, coke, and all that to be.
Didn't they reverse that law?
No.
Didn't they just?
No.
They did,
No.
they didn't reverse it.
No.
They put in new legislation.
Made it worse.
Yeah,
They made it worse.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Douglas County has.
It has to be a felony. It just has to be a felony.
Yep.
Okay, you guys,
Yep, back.
I am gonna try to get us out of here as soon as possible. 10.3 is transportation legislation. We're gonna go ahead and keep this on our agenda so we can keep watching for it because we are in session now. In legislative session and will be until May, June. When is that? When's that? I don't know. We have a giant transportation package coming. And we don't know what it looks like yet, but we will be looking at that when it comes forward. There are a few pieces of small legislation that have come out of the transportation, the joint committee on transportation. Nothing major yet. We also have the legislative days that,
OTA.
yes, I believe, is it April?
April 1st.
April
I think,
1st.
yep.
So if anybody is interested in attending that, we can register, but we were limited with registration with not being members,
No, we are
but
members.
that just got fixed.
No, it's been fixed.
So we're members for Umpqua Public. The first participant is free and then any additional member is $25. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't let me register for it, so I don't know why. but-
I saw that too. I tried to register and it just, there's some kind of error, so I need to reach out to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but if any board member is interested in attending, let Mira know. And she'll get that set up for you guys. It's just, I think it's important for us as a board to know what's coming. It impacts us financially, it impacts our community, and our community is looking to us for, for us to be those representatives for them, for the people who voted us into these positions, that we're paying attention to that and that we're making recommendations. So there's an opportunity a lot of times to provide testimony for these bills that are coming through. So we're just gonna keep this on our agenda so we know what's coming. All right, CEO report. That's fun.
Well, not much to report, really. I mean, other than what we've gone through today, there's been a tremendous amount of movement on getting compliant, which is which our funding is all tied to, and it's the most critical piece of it. We don't really have any we're evaluating options for new funding projects, grants, funding projects. George and I are gonna be in DC next week, and we're hoping to meet engage with some FTA people there as well. And as well as legislators want to find out what the federal government's gonna do, because that's really just a big, who knows? I mean, is there gonna be money for rural transit districts in 6 months? Like, we don't really know. So there's a lot of things that are gonna be, that we're looking at from that standpoint, in terms of making sure that the district stays funded. Moving forward through with, the branding and everything else that we've been working on since last month. And so, yeah, there's really not much to it. One of the great things that I think is that happened is we've got the new radios tested, and they're gonna go into all the buses starting next week. Which is huge. It's huge for the drivers because not being able to communicate is a huge security issue, much less it's just frustrating. And so we've got that resolved. George really took the lead on that and made it happen. And so that's the right people in the right seats. And yeah, I mean, that's really just about it. Procurement policies dialed in. We're putting it to good use. I don't know. That's all I got for right now. Everything else is still in the works.
So the radios, are they gonna be able to call dispatch?
Yeah.
Perfect.
100%.
That's huge.
They'll be able to call each other, call dispatch. It'll be a big
Dispatch for law enforcement though, or that's what I mean. Something.
I don't know.
No.
No,
No,
okay.
they won't be tied into law
Law.
enforcement.
Yeah, There's no way for
And there's no
that.
panic
There,
button.
there
or
might,
anything
there
on
might
it.
be a way to do it. That, the problem with the old other radios is it interfered with first response.
Yeah, well,
And that's
terrible.
yeah, which is bad, but I think.
But as long as they've got, so I'm just thinking if they, now that they can communicate, they could, to get a hold of somebody to.
They can communicate, and I think Andre's asking, right now we have a radio down where the supervisor sat, and we have one up here. They're fixed to those offices because they're wired to the roof. So you have to be sitting there to monitor them. And Andre's asking for 4 handhelds so that they can clip them on their hip. If they're out in the yard, they can still hear their drivers if
Perfect,
they need
okay.
something. So yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's
Perfect.
working on all of that.
What about ridership? It looks like it's down a little bit last month.
Oh, yeah, let's see. Our red line, green line, was up, 11.26% on the red line, green line. There was a dip in the Sutherland. The Sutherland was down, almost 4%. And that just,
Is that
I
just
mean-
a normal fluctuation?
it could be a fluctuation, we'll have to see, I mean, we did have to cut some of those services last year when we did the cuts in May. So, it decreased the number of stops that we, do in Sutherland,
Yeah,
so.
well, yeah, it's definitely down compared to last year.
And
Right.
then the Winston, that has been decreasing or it's been on a steady decline for quite some time, like we just don't get the ridership in Winston.
Are we not in the right place?
We are probably in Winston more than we are anywhere else.
Mhm.
We have,
But I mean, the
we
pickup
have
location.
several
do you think?
locations,
Yeah.
I don't know, Andre, do you have any input on the ridership with Winston or Sutherland?
Ugh.
I do know that Sutherland is one that does fluctuate and weather can play a big part in it. Also, you know, with UCC can have a fluctuation of different years. Some years we have more people dependent on rides. And plus we're not servicing them. There's a 4-hour break between the AM and PM compared to last year. So last year's numbers really do not reflect the difference between the commuter and the route. Because right now we only do the Sutherland and Winston commuter, which basically gives a break during midday.
Yeah, we cut the service.
Yeah, we would say that was,
Yeah, but I mean, even from last month, it's down. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it is down from-
significantly down from last.
And
year.
weather can have to do with that and everything else too, Michaela. Sometimes, I mean, we do have our strong months. And I mean, predominantly our busiest month of the year is November, which doesn't make any sense, but it does fluctuate.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
it depends too, like when UCC is in
session.
session versus not in session.
Yeah.
Spring breaks
Mhm.
and winter
All that
breaks,
stuff.
all that stuff plays a part in ridership. And like Andre said, the weather, we've had some pretty cold days, for a while,
Yeah,
so.
and then demand response is down significantly.
The demand response, so it depends on, let's see. Let me go look on the demand response.
It's on the back side of that. I don't know what page it's, they're not.
Is it on the back side of the Winston? Is that the one you're looking at?
Mhm.
No.
On the back side of 13-month rolling ridership. It looks like this.
No, okay.
Yeah,
my-
Winston's been on the decline, Michaela, and we service them with 3 routes every day. We are
Yeah.
in some part of Winston, and yeah, we have really seen, I mean, I can go back 6 months where I see a lot of PM drivers. There's $1.50 in their fare box. That's it. We picked up 2 riders.
Are you looking at the paratransit and the Umpqua rides? Those two?
Yes.
So the paratransit is going to be down because when we cut back those services, And we, and the Sutherland and Winston converted back to a commuter route.
Mhm.
That decreased the paratransit,
Oh, because we're just comparing from last year. This
Mhm.
isn't from last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's year over year.
so the
Okay.
paratransit was reduced with the cuts in service.
Mhm.
But then the dial-a-ride is up, because
Okay.
then the paratransit service area is reduced, but then the dial-a-ride service
Right.
was increased. But
Okay,
the paratransit is a guaranteed ride and the
Yeah.
dial-a-ride is a available
Yeah.
only,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
so.
Okay, so that, yeah, that stat isn't really pertinent to it.
Yeah.
But that's caused by decisions that were made. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And then,
I honestly think it would be a great idea because we're seeing this reduction in ridership, maybe it is time to do some sort of a town hall or, to be able to get some community input into what they want. What do they need, I don't know. Like that.
I can tell you it's up significantly since you and I started.
Well, that's true.
yeah,
We were
we're
coming off
definitely,
the
yeah, we're
COVID.
definitely up.
Is that what
We have reached
people
our
getting off and getting off?
Yeah.
pre-COVID numbers,
Yes,
so
definitely.
that is a good thing.
100%. Any other questions on ridership or for our CEO?
Good work.
You hope it works. All right, anything not on agenda?
Well, I know that I need to fill out an SL 105 form tonight. Is that what it is, 105?
I think it's 190.
Whatever it is, to run for reelection on this board.
Okay.
And I know that there's a number of other people on the board here that also are going to need to fill one out if they haven't already. I just want to remind everybody to think this over, because it will make a difference as to whether we can continue our work that we've done together thus far in bringing UPTD back from the brink. So it's just something that needs to be considered by everybody.
Perfect. The filing deadline, I believe, is Thursday.
It is 20th, right?
Anything else not on agenda? Okay, public comment.
Hi,
Oh, we have public comment. Would you please state your name and your city for the record?
David Delphi, Roseburg.
Okay.
Not to step on toes about the safety of our drivers, and I get it. But putting a lethal or any kind of weapon on a bus,
Mhm.
which is confined, small. You're not just up there with somebody who's wants to harm you, you're with other people.
Mhm.
Other people get harmed. It's gonna be that way. You cannot put weapons on a bus.
Mhm.
What you could do, and it's a budget thing, is have an extra driver on.
Mhm.
You don't have to have him all day. He could be on there from 2 to 3 or from 5 to 8. An extra driver would help the other clients on the bus
Mhm.
feel safety. Plus, the bus driver can drive the bus and not worry about the people behind his back. But it's a budget maker. You can't just say, hey, but you could also hire bus drivers in the thing, hey, you're gonna be on a bus now doing this, and then you can learn the routes, you can learn how to drive, and then you can take over as a driver.
Mhm.
So it's kind of that way, but it is gonna be an extra person. Now, you can get your part-time people who work 25, 30 hours a week.
Mhm.
That could be part of the 25, 30 hours a week. So it is a part-time job, and they don't have to have all the amenities that a full-time person would have.
Mhm. That's a good idea, David.
Yeah,
That's my record.
Very good feedback. Thank you.
thank
Thank
you. And thank you for coming. We would like you to come more often and give us tips and tricks. All right, let's do our agenda build really quickly, then we're gonna go into executive session, hopefully fairly briefly. We're gonna have, both Ben and George stay for executive session, but let's do our agenda build really quickly. Okay, What do we need to, so we'll have our regular minutes, our preventative maintenance report, of course. Our ODOT updates, financial report, we're not gonna need to go over the audit. Or either of the corrective action plans, so just the financial report.
And this meeting is what date again?
Let me find out.
21st, I think.
My voice is gonna start giving out.
21st,
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll do public comment on agenda,
Regular meeting on the 21st.
compliance update, we can keep that on there if you have anything left, I don't know, probably anything to consider.
The only thing that we're working on now is just training, and we're already signed up for things, so.
Okay, so we can
Yep.
just get final updates on the compliance. And make sure we're closed out. Okay. Old business, let's see. We need to keep updates on executive order resolution 2501 on there. Let's move transportation legislation into old business.
Yeah.
Do we want another update on driver safety? Next time,
Yeah,
let's
It-
add,
it's gonna be an ongoing issue until something suitable is in place.
right. So let's add driver safety to old business. For our next meeting. And. Anything for new business next time?
Will we be voting on the CEO, the general
We
manager?
are going to be doing that before, well, actually, when are we gonna do that?
That would
The
be
11th?
We're
Yeah,
gonna
we're
have the
gonna do that.
interviews on the
We're gonna do
11th.
do
Vote
that.
on the 11th?
We'll do that during interviews, yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna have to,
All right.
so.
Are we gonna be making any announcements then?
Yeah, so for new business, we'll probably need to discuss the new CEO, correct?
Whether they take the contract, I mean, there's gonna be we're gonna decide on someone, that doesn't mean we hired them, you know, I
That's
mean.
true, so we'll just,
Although I thought the whole idea is we're trying to do it before the old contract's gone, which is before our next meeting.
that's
It's
the
going to
goal.
be very tight.
That's what that was.
But it sounds like we're stuck, and we get it done, yeah.
Cause just hiring somebody doesn't mean they're hired, I mean, they gotta agree to it, there has to be a contract.
That was kind of why I thought we should do an extension. That we're going back.
And the contract is part of the hiring process, in other words, what are we offering this person? What if they have a counter offer, what if they say, sure, I'd like to do it, but I gotta move, it's gonna cost me some money to get there, whatever, blah, blah.
I have an idea, why don't we have an emergency special meeting if we need to discuss any
There you go.
deviation from the plan that we have?
Okay,
That works.
Does that work? Cause there's a lot of
That's
like,
good.
That works.
we don't know where we're
Yeah.
gonna end
Yeah.
up.
that's right.
Okay, so under new
I'm-
business, we'll put the new
I'm
CEO.
feeling like
As
we're
a
going
budget.
backwards. Going back into the fall where we had all
We're
these
not.
emergency
We're not
meetings.
going back.
I'm
This
having
is one thing.
PTSD right
It's just
now.
one time.
PTSD, definitely.
You have
Anything
turned in
else?
your forms, haven't you?
Yours. Emergency meetings, that up until that point?
Okay. If anybody else wants to add something to the agenda, just please email me and I will get it over to Amira. We'll also do our CEO report. If we could either during the financial report or during the CEO report next time, get an update on,
We won't have a CEO.
That's true. well.
I
let's
mean,
leave it
are
on
we
there
getting
just
a
in case.
final report, but Ben would not be obligated to be coming
Right,
to give us a report, and the new person wouldn't have started their job
it might be
necessarily.
their first day. and we
Yeah,
did
which would
make
not have
Ben-
anything really to report.
We made Ben do a CEO report on his first day, I believe.
I had a 30-day head start
Yeah.
because of the
I know, but we
assessment.
still, and he said, my report is, I cleaned out this office.
Took all day.
Took all
I
day.
remember, I specifically remember, so let's just leave that on there in case we need it. not on agenda is fine, public comment, blah, 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 we're good. I think that's good, and then we should not need executive session, but if we do, I'll let you know. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move into executive session, in just a moment, so if you can drop off and then come back into the waiting room, we'll let you back in after executive session is over. And I am going to also call a short recess so I can run to the bathroom. So let's come back at what, 7:55?
Yeah.
All right. So we adjourned executive session at 8:46, and we have no further business to accomplish. So I'm also going to adjourn our regular meeting at 8:46 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good night, Jennifer.
Good seeing you again, Doug.
Good seeing you, Doug.